the culture here on I-24 News. I'm Glenn Rober. Thank you for joining me. We have a wonderful show for you today. We'll start by talking to photographer Ambroise Tezenas about his new book, chronicling dark tourism. We'll then get into the Christmas spirit with a visit to Berlin's Christmas markets. And we'll talk about the revival of an Israeli play that's got everyone talking. Ambroise Tezenas is a French photographer who recently released the book I Was Here, Dark Tourism. In the book, he points his lens at dark tourism locations around the world, such as Cambodia, Rwanda, Lebanon, and more, where people visit locations of tragedy and death. Earlier today, I spoke with Tezenas via Skype from Paris. Here's our conversation. So, hello, Ambroise. Thank you so much for speaking to us today.
You're very welcome. Hello.
So, tell me how this project came to be.
This project came to be because, me reading, I think on the internet, an article about Sri Lanka and the tsunami in Sri Lanka. Because actually in 2004, I was in Sri Lanka, visiting Sri Lanka when the tsunami happened, and finally spent a week there, where a train was swept by the wave, causing the death of 2,000 people. And then a few years later, in 2008, I read an article saying that the train has been left in the jungle, and then people, tourists, were going to these places to have their picture taken. And I thought, why? Linking this to what I saw with my eyes, meaning, all these people dead everywhere, all these, disaster. Right. I was wondering, this connection made me think, I'd like to understand a bit more about this.
Right. So what did you understand about this fascination that people have?
Well, it was more a journey I wanted to go through. I think it's somehow I wanted to raise the point, very, very humbly, but because there are so many questions, this fascination we have as human with our ability to do evil and witness the evidence of horror and stare fixedly. Right. I thought, I wanted to go through this.
Yeah, certainly. Now, it's also a challenge, as a photographer, it's a challenge, because how do you approach taking these pictures? You actually took pictures alongside tourists, which means that there are a lot of different cameras pointed at the same thing. How'd you get a fresh look?
I work with a large format camera, so with a 4-5 inch, meaning a tripod, and with plates, and so the way I work is very slow. Now, I wanted, and especially working on such a project, to have a very strict protocol, and so what I've done is, I have contacted, for places where you had a tour operator. I contacted those places. I paid my tour, and needed to go to those places following the route of tourists, meaning spending the time they will spend there and taking picture that they were able to take, not using the right of the potential right of a photojournalist to go behind scenes. And also, which was very important for me, was to find the right distance, because my idea is not to point at those people saying, it doesn't make them dark tourists.
Yeah.
The location are about dark tourism, but so the question of the distance was very, very important. But again, because I work 4-5 inch, with this large, heavy camera, it obviously it gives you this distance.
Yeah, it automatically looks different. It's not that you're using an iPhone like everybody else to take these pictures. Now, some of the places you visited experienced man-made tragedies, while some of the locations had accidents happen there. Do you feel there's a difference between places that are preserved as a sort of a warning sign for the future, like Auschwitz, for instance, and the location of the train wreck you mentioned?
Totally. It's actually, what interests me is that, you have this memorial tourism, and Auschwitz is obviously the place, and I'm starting the book by it without putting it as a chapter, because the memorial tourism is something very different. Now, the commercialization in action in other places is sometimes with these companies is sometimes linked to this memorial tourism. And for me, it's something totally different. Now, the dark tourism concept includes all this. It includes places linked to death and tragedy. So, I mean, it could be because of historical thing, because of, natural disaster. And that's why I think it's very important to say, very quickly I started to read the work of this English professor called Professor Lennon, who is like the father of dark tourism. And working along with him, I wanted that these few sites, these sites that I wanted to go to, were kind of revealing the aspect of dark tourism, with different aspects.
Right. The fascination, our fascination with death is nothing new. It's just that now there are these organized tours that you mentioned. Is this the point that we cross the line, maybe?
Yes, definitely crossing the line. But above this, it's interesting to understand, why in our time, where we are so close to death through the news, through the cinema, through video games, but at the same time, death is so removed from our contemporary society. And then is in the tourism industry, which is one of the industry which is in constant progression. You're always trying to find new niche.
Right.
And then when you go like this Latvian jail I was going to, it's they are using the fact that you will understand history and you will experience history, paying to play a prisoner and be terrorized by guard in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
So it's all those excess, you cannot put everything on the same level.
Yeah.
Where sometimes
perhaps if you bring someone else's death closer to you, some people would think that you put yours further away. It's a very interesting issue, no doubt about that. What's next for you? What are you going to visit next?
Well, this project is now, done in the sense that the book exists. And as a photographer, I have so many other questions I am asking myself. So I reckon, this project about, dark tourism for me is done.
Yeah.
And I'm moving to another one.
Which is?
I'm a slow photographer, so I take years and years to build my project. But which is a project about cities in Central Asia and about this dictatorship at the door of Europe. But Europe doesn't say anything because they have so much gas. And I'm talking here about Turkmenistan and all those places.
We'll certainly keep an eye out for that. Slow and steady wins the race. Thank you so much, Ambroise.
You're welcome. Thank you to you.
Christmas markets have been working hard all around the world in recent weeks in preparation for the big day. In the city of Berlin, there is an especially large variety of markets catering to both traditional Christmas shoppers and alternative ones. Let's take a look.
Berlin may be famous for its plentiful offering of Christmas markets, but Gendarmenmarkt is a favorite. Since it launched in 2003, it's become one of the most popular in the city. Some even head over there twice a day during the festive season, like Anya, who's brought some colleagues along too.
We work round the corner and we take a break for some mulled wine before going back to work, in a good mood.
We enjoyed a grilled sausage, drank mulled wine and did some shopping. This Christmas market is really beautiful.
Selling pralines, mulled wine and sausages, the market's certainly faithful to the tradition. And the merry atmosphere attracts customers from all over the world.
Between 50 and 60% of those attending the market are tourists. They come from all over the world. We hear every language here at the weekend.
Slightly off the beaten track, more alternative options have also emerged. At the Neue Heimat Christmas market, you won't find many baubles or tinsel, but a quirkier display.
Here we find we have rather young and trendy clientele. We won't buy things that are mass-produced.
Handmade products are on sale in very simple surroundings and to a background of electro music.
The old Christmas markets are a little too traditional and often crowded. What I like about it here is that contemporary art is linked with the Christmas tradition.
Whether traditional or alternative, a good Christmas market can be a treasure trove for all the last-minute Christmas shoppers searching for even the most eccentric of gifts.
In just a moment, we'll hear why a 20-year-old play has got everyone talking here in Israel. But first, our cultural recommendation for the day.
Yigal Ahuvi is an Israeli businessman known for his love of art and his experience as a collector. He owns what many consider as one of the richest collections of contemporary art in the world. To exhibit his finest pieces, it was necessary to divide it into 12. Melting Walls is the section which is currently on display in Tel Aviv. Picasso, Diane Arbus, Doug Aitken, and Olia Eliasson are among the most beautiful masterpieces of contemporary art that come together in one place, including Pyongyang's second by the world-famous photographer Andreas Gursky. You can find all of these gems at the Art Gallery of the University of Tel Aviv.
And now, author and cultural commentator Amalia Rosenblum is back in our studio. Great to have you back, Amalia.
Thanks.
We're going to be talking about a play that is creating a lot of buzz nowadays.
That's true, and it's not a new play. Actually, it's a remake. It's called Gorodish, and in 1993, it was shown for the first time.
Right, Gorodish, we should say, is the nickname of the Israeli general Shmuel Gonen,
who was a very, was a highly decorated general. He was wounded 5 times, and he achieved his glory in the 6-Day War.
Right, and after the 6-Day War, when he gave a very famous speech.
Right, my glorious brothers deserving of fame. I think it's often quoted, right, in schools, and the famous line, let me read it: "We looked death straight in the face, and it lowered its eyes at us." Right.
Strong words, but his story, even though so far it sounds very nice, is ultimately
like any good tragedy, right? It starts with a promise,
well, right?
Yes.
But it is a tragic story.
It is. He did continue to rise through the ranks, and in 1973 he replaced Ariel Sharon as the chief of the Southern Commands.
At a really bad timing, one should say. I mean,
his failure was Yom Kippur. The way that he reacted to the Egyptian army was deemed a failure, and eventually he was replaced by the general staff.
Right, at which point he moved to Africa, if I'm not mistaken.
He moved to Africa, and he stayed there until his death in 1991, and he seemed, from whatever information we have, he seemed possessed with everything of redemption and proving himself
really
right.
Get away from everything that took place.
I think he lost his sanity, plus the medication. Seriously speaking, the medication against malaria and all of that really
didn't help.
Heart of Darkness. Was.
So that's the background. But as you said, this is a 20-year-old play. Why is it so relevant now? All of a sudden, why is it?
Well, I think it's a good question, and it's part of the the feeling that history repeats itself, or that in fact history never changed. But let me read you just a short quote from one of the critics. He said, in 1993 it was a nostalgic play, meaning to say back then we thought, oh, this is how we were in the 70s. The generals, the arrogance, the corruption. At that time, we thought that the Yom Kippur War had healed us.
Right.
But
93, we should say, is around the Oslo. There was a promise of a new Middle East.
That's an important context to bear in mind. And then look at the nightmare that we're in now, says that critic. They're all back. Meaning the corrupted generals and so on, and in spades. So
So really, I guess we can learn that not much has changed.
I think that's the spirit of things, and it's an important argument, especially at when it's election time. So.
Right, and let's not forget it's a beautiful play.
It is, and you should go see it.
I certainly will. Thank you so much, Amaya.
Thank you.
That's it from us for today. We end with a taste from a new piece by artist duo Adrian M. and Claire B. It's called Pixel. It mixes dance with real-time digital projections. It's beautiful. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Here it is.